Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is Friction by Coney. This is the Canadian band's third album from 1985. Not quite sure when this came out, but it's 40 years old this year, so I'm just dropping it today. So Coney first sort of came to prominence with their debut album in 1982. They got good reviews in Kerrang, and it opened with a really top track called Devil's Deck, which, if you've not heard Devil's Deck, is just a great hard rock song. What really made the band stand out is two things, I think. Solid rhythm section, the fact they had two vocalists, Carl Dixon with his kind of melodic, sort of thick sounding voice, and then Andy Curran with his slightly more sleazy kind of Alice Cooper kind of voice. So Carl Dixon would do the majority of the vocals, but Andy Curran would get in with a few vocals. Then they had the guitar worker Steve Shelsky, who's a very fine player, a really good melodic rock player with a nice way of doing sort of bluesy tinged pinched harmonic type solos. So the first album's got some really good tracks. It's got a track called Hey Operator on it, which Aldo Nova covered for his Subject album. Monkey Bars, which is a cool track, and so on. It's a little patchy in places, but it is a good, strong debut. Their next album, Out Hand, I'm not that keen on, but it did bring them into the orbit of Max Norman. I think Out Hand didn't get as good reviews, although it does have its fans, and I think that kind of stilted their momentum a bit. And there was quite a long gap between that and Friction, which kind of, I think, is what kind of did for Friction a bit, and the band split up after this. But I think this is an excellent melodic hard rock AOR album, and it's one of the best sounding albums of its era. Let's dive into it. So it opens with This Ain't Love. So what's interesting about the production on this album is it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's openly kind of processed, I think. It's got, you can clearly hear the synth bass going along with a regular bass at the start, very kind of Def Leppard. It has like a big, splashy, enlarged snare sound, and then later on the track it does a tom fill, and the toms are huge. But as produced by Max Norman, these are good sounds. Kind of like Priest Turbo album, you know. Clearly the guitars are quite processed. It's got a machine-like snare sound, but they're good sounds, in my opinion. Really good vocal by Carl Dixon. Really simple riff. It's kind of going the AC/DC route. Some cool fills by Steve Shelsky. It's a really great opening track. It's 4 minutes and 7 seconds long. Should just say that their original drummer Dave Cratcham left before the release of this album. They got Barry Connors, who used to be in Toronto, who were a Canadian AOR band, female fronted, kind of like Canada's Heart, I suppose. Yeah, he does a really good job. Like I say, he's kind of laying it down simple, but it's big and ballsy. There's a really good pocket. It's that thing where the performance and the character performance is good. After the solo breakdown, you can hear the kind of process sound on the guitars. It kind of has a kind of a washy sort of delay reverb on, which is really cool. I suspect they've used Rockmans for this album, and Rockman's a popular thing in the 80s. Def Leppard used them, I think Priest used them on Two and Ram It Down. You know, it's the original guitar modelling unit. So this process sound works for this album. Next track, She's Gone. I think there might be a video for this, I'm not sure. This is a very melodic, sort of hard rock AOR track. Again, really good vocal by Carl Dixon. Nice guitar solo by Steve Shelsky on this. This is a cool thing where he basically plays a line with his left hand and then taps the octave notes out. Tony McAlpine did this quite a lot. It's quite a cool effect. It gives it kind of a nice kind of rippling melody. Then you got Wrong Side of Town. This is Andy Curran stepping up to vocals on this. So this is a kind of sassy rocker, more up tempo, with some cool guitar fills. Andy Curran's not as strong a singer as Carl Dixon. I think there was a push to have Carl Dixon singing more on this album by Max Norman, probably the label. I think that's the right choice, but it's good having that variety in there. Then you've got Girl from Last Night's Dream next, 4 minutes and 4 again. This is another melodic, sort of more AOR hard rocker. Again, melodic, nice solos. Cheesy lyrics, but works for the time. And then track 5 is the first kind of real dip. This is the weakest track on the album. It's Coming to Get You. There's a kind of good kind of pre-chorus on this, I think, but this track just doesn't work for me. And that finished side one of the original vinyl. Now I should say the original vinyl had 9 tracks on it, so side 2 had 4 tracks. But on the CD remaster from Rock Candy, you get Fuel for the Fire on the last track, which was the B-side of the British single. Not sure what the British single was. Track 6 is maybe my favourite track on the album, or maybe my second favourite after This Ain't Love Is Fantasy. Pop quiz: how many metal bands, hard rock bands, have really good songs called Fantasy? Well, there's Aldo Nova's Fantasy, there's Bonfire's Fantasy, Deep Cut, Mars Project Driver Fantasy, my favourite Fantasy. And this one got a really nice riff from Steve Shelsky. Really good, very AOR verses with keyboards. I should say on this album as well, keyboards are quite often mixed in with the guitars. It doesn't hide them. There's quite a lot of examples in rock albums this time, rock and metal, hard rock, of keyboards being buried in the guitar mix. You can't hear them, but they are there, whereas with this you can hear them, the synth bass thing and the keyboard pads. But it works really well on this track. Nice solo, really good kind of post chorus solo. So one thing I like on songs is when you have a middle 8 or a solo, then you have what I call a post solo, post middle solo section, and that spins it back into the chorus, and there's a really good harmony breakdown, really lovely. So really like this track. Then you got He's a Champion next. I think this is one of the best produced tracks on the album. This is probably the heaviest track in a way. Massive punch on the drums, big guitars, big bottom end. Catchy. Really like it. Next up is State Line. This is more up tempo, so this is the right time to have another up tempo track like Wrong Side of Town. This is good. Probably not the best track, but it's still a catchy track. And then the album original vinyl finished with Burning Love, which is again sort of more of a filler track, but a good catchy track. And then the aforementioned Fuel for the Fire, again a good track, not one of the best, but this album, the only dip on this album really is Coming to Get Him. And This Ain't Love, She's Gone, Wrong Side of Town, Girl from Last Night's Dream are all really great, as are Fantasy, Needs a Champion. So you got 6 really top tracks and then 3 solid tracks. So it's easy an 8.5 out of 10. The Coney Hatch albums, the first 3 are worth checking out. The first album is a good debut. Like I said, I'm not fussed about Out of Hand, but it's got its fans and there's some good tracks. But I think this album's really good. But it just wasn't to be. I'm just looking at the All Music there and it gives it 2 stars. Don't know why that is. Cool album art on this, really simple as well, but effective. There's a good black and white shot of the band on the back. I should just say the band didn't really, have a great image. They didn't have any kind of pretty members. This is the problem for a lot of bands at this time. They kind of have the hair done up a bit. This came at a time where hair's just starting to get bigger, and they've obviously been to the costume department a bit. They're kind of more of a jeans and t-shirt rock band before that. They supported Iron Maiden, actually, I think, when they played Canada. But I'm digressing. But, it's one of those things, if you're not established already, if you're coming into music, trying to get big, and you haven't got pretty members, it's just really hard, I wouldn't say Iron Maiden the best looking band, but they're already big, as were Judas Priest and so on. So a kind of victim of its times. There's a lot of noise around there. There's a saturated, the market's getting saturated, and then an album like this gets lost. But I think this is a really, really strong record. I hadn't heard it for a long time, and then in lockdown I bought the remastered albums, and I was like, I just really enjoyed this album, and listening to it again recently. This is a solid hard rock release from 1985. So if you're not checked out Coney Hatch, dive in, check out Devil's Deck, and dive into Friction. So remember, share and subscribe. I'll see you again soon, and thanks very much.